Murder is an act that is seriously frowned upon by society. Despite public opinions of this cruel act, many people walk around with murderous intent, some of whom execute these intentions. One can only wonder what could drive anyone to commit murder, especially a young person whose victim is a member of their family. Welcome to the Crime Lab channel. In today's video, we'll look into the story of the teenage girl who murdered her own mother and went viral on TikTok. Isabella Guzman was 18 years old when she killed her own mother on her bathroom floor on August 2013. Due to social media, this intriguing story has resurfaced several years after the incident. Without further ado, let's look at Isabella's life from the beginning. Isabella Guzman was born on June 1995. She was an only child born to an interracial couple, Robert Guzman and her mother, Hun-Mi Hoy, both of whom were photographers. They lived together in Aurora, Colorado. Isabella had some irritable qualities early in her childhood, including insolence, entitlement, and disrespectfulness. Her family fell on hard times financially, and naturally, they would cut down their cost of living. This meant that they weren't going to be able to buy Isabella some of the things she requested, and because of this, she threw tantrums severally. Her parents attributed this behavior to her age and excused it, saying she'd be more understanding as she grew. Unlike her parents had hoped, Isabella's character grew worse as the years passed. Her behaviors worsened at the age of 5 when her parents got divorced. Following the divorce, her mother, Hun-Mi, gained custody of Isabella. Her father lived within the neighborhood, very close to her mother's apartment. A few months after the divorce, Hun-Mi started her life over again and started going out with a man named Ryan Hoy. Isabella saw this development as an attempt to replace her father, which did not sit well with her. She soon learned that her mother and Ryan had been together even before her parents' divorce. This could only mean her mother was involved in an extramarital affair. Isabella felt betrayed for herself and her father, and she was completely furious. Her mother's new relationship marked the beginning of fights between her and Hun-Mi. They were constantly fighting, and the atmosphere was always filled with tension. This continued till she was 7, and her parents decided it was best if she lived with her father for a while. At her father's house, Isabella behaved differently. She seemed happy. She was calm, kind, respectful, and full of love. Her father talked to her often about treating her mother differently and with respect. It seemed like she was listening, and her behavior would change, so they decided she could return to live with Hun-Mi again. On the contrary, Isabella got nastier and couldn't stand her mother's relationship with Ryan Hoy. Her relationship with her mother became more chaotic, and it stayed that way for a while. In school, Isabella wasn't a great student. Her parents had high hopes for her. Like most parents, they wanted her to finish well, get a degree, and have a good future. On the other hand, Isabella couldn't care less about her parents' plans. She was nonchalant, barely attended classes, never studied, and just did whatever she wanted. She attended Overland High School for a while, but she dropped out. Isabella struggled with mental health issues in her teenage years, which everybody seemed to not pay attention to. Isabella spent most of her time with her friends and boyfriend. Apart from her dad, these were the only other people with whom she didn't seem to have any problems. She would sneak out of her mother's house on several occasions to hang out with her friends. On August 27, 2013, some neighbors reported to Hun-Mi that they had seen Isabella sneak a man out of her room late at night. As an East Asian parent, Hun-Mi was furious after hearing that piece of information, and she decided to confront Isabella about it. That night, Hun-Mi and Isabella had their most intense fight, which worsened their already bad relationship. During the confrontation, Isabella became more threatening and disrespectful to her mother. who threatened to kick her out of her house. Hun-Mi decided Isabella wasn't going to have dinner that night, and she responded to her mother's angry comments by yelling at her and spitting in her face. After the argument that night, Hun-Mi became very paranoid. She was so afraid that she asked her husband, Ryan, to stay close to her throughout the night. The following day, Hun-Mi woke up to an email from her daughter, which read, "You will pay." Terrified, she called Ryan, and they reported the incident to the police. The police had a conversation with Isabella, who was on her best behavior. After questioning and investigating, the police let Isabella off with a warning. They assured Hun-Mi that her daughter was just exhibiting teenage rebellion, and she was not a threat. Later that night, Hun-Mi returned home late, long after her shift. She obviously still felt unsafe after the incident between her and her daughter. She made her way upstairs to take a shower, and a few minutes later, Ryan, who was in the kitchen, heard Hun-Mi screaming, and he rushed to the bathroom. He tried to open the door and briefly caught a glimpse of Isabella before she slammed the door shut and locked it. The screams continued, and finally, he heard his wife shout, "Jehovah." Upon seeing a pool of blood flowing from under the bathroom door, he hurriedly picked up his phone and called the police, informing them that his wife was under attack. Finally, the door opened, and he saw his wife's naked body lying in a pool of blood with a baseball bat beside her. Isabella, who was standing in the doorway, was completely expressionless, covered in blood, and had a knife in her hand. She said nothing as she exited the bathroom. Ryan rushed to hold Hun-Mi in his arms and try to resuscitate her, but his efforts were fruitless. When the police arrived, she was pronounced dead, and according to the coroner, she had 151 stab wounds, including 31 to her face and 48 around her neck. Isabella was absent from the murder scene, and she wasn't brought in until a day later by the effort of some undercover officers. She was taken into custody and formally charged with first-degree murder. Robert, Isabella's biological father, was invited to the police station. In his statement, he said that he went to speak with Isabella on the day of the murder after hearing about what transpired between her and her mother. He calmly spoke to her, condemning her behavior towards her mother and imploring her to treat her mother with respect. He thought they were making progress with their conversation, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. The trial for the murder of her mother began in September 2013. Isabella was made to undergo extensive psychiatric examinations as part of the process that followed her arrest. As the case unfolded in the summer of 2014, Dr. Richard Pounds disclosed that Isabella had paranoid schizophrenia. He said there were obvious signs of hallucinating. She was staring into space, having conversations with people who were not present, and she was laughing at herself. Isabella told the court that voices in her head had been controlling her. She said that she believed her mom was a woman named Cecilia, an evil being who she had to murder to save the world. At the trial, Isabella pleaded not guilty on account of insanity, and based on the testimonies, her insanity plea was accepted by the judge. At 18, she was sent to the Mental Health Institute at Pueblo. Isabella has been in the mental health facility for over 7 years. Since 2020, she has expressed her desire to leave, wanting a shot at living a normal life. In an interview with CBS 4 conducted through a computer camera in the facility, Isabella said, "I was not myself when I did that, and I have since been restored to full health."
I was not myself when I did that, and I have since been restored to full health. If I could change it or if I could take it back, I would.
In 2020, there was a trend about Instagram where clips of young accused criminals and murderers were shown on trending songs. A random TikToker created a video that showed Isabella as she walked into a courtroom. The video was made into a meme using Sweet But Psycho, a song by Ava Max. In the video, Isabella sat down and turned to the camera, stared at it for a while, sarcastically smiled, then frowned. The video went viral, gaining more than 100 million views. Due to her looks, many people believed Isabella was too beautiful and innocent to be a murderer. This video, posted 7 years after the murder, made people interested in knowing who the beautiful woman in the orange overalls was. This shed light on the case, which was almost completely forgotten. That's a wrap on today's video. Thank you for watching this video. Hit us up in the comment section and give us a thumbs up if you liked the video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos.